story starts here, in the heart of the city.
We continue to follow the ongoing developments.
The student group is the first to take on such a project.
Everyone is waiting for a vote on the bill.
The team is winning at a record-breaking pace.
It's an issue for residents here and around Boston.
The story is coming up on Suffolk U News.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Suffolk U News, the weekly news program brought to you by the Department of Communication and Journalism at Suffolk University. I'm Jessica Bard from Harleysville, Pennsylvania.
And I'm Dan McCarthy from New Milford, Connecticut. We're happy to be coming to you from our studio in downtown Boston, courtesy of your cable company and on the internet.
We begin with an update on a series of sexual assaults in a neighborhood typically known for its safety. 2 separate attacks have been reported in the North End since February.
A North End man was charged with those crimes, but the problem is he didn't commit them. The victim in the second attack spotted the man in the neighborhood and told police she was almost certain he was the one who harmed her. He has since been cleared, but is now looking for an apology from authorities. Members of the North End Waterfront Neighborhood Council say that just like his reputation, they hope the neighborhood can restore its reputation as well.
The bottom line is it's an awful crime, and this is something that's been going off and on in the North End for 12 years now, and I've lived here almost 17 years. So I'm glad that the police ultimately conducted a thorough investigation that led to them dropping charges.
My council met the night that the arrest took place, and the police responded really quickly and took care of it pretty fast. I mean, I thought that was really good to see. Unfortunately, it turns out that that person wasn't responsible.
Police are still searching for the suspect, and they are encouraging everyone in the North End to be alert and aware of their surroundings at all times. The Boston Police Department also has their hands full with an increase in criminal activity in the Boston Common. In the past week, 7 different cases of robbery and assault were reported in the nation's oldest city park. The financial district has seen an increase in criminal activity as well. Several arrests have been made. The crimes have been mostly committed by groups of teenagers and young adults. The Suffolk University Police and Security Department is emphasizing caution by late-night walkers. Now for our continuing coverage of this year's Boston Marathon.
We are now just days away from this year's race. Nearly a year after the tragic bombings at last year's marathon, Sports Illustrated invited Bostonians to be a part of Boston's Strong cover shoot for its magazine. The shoot took place early Saturday morning at the marathon finish line. Mayor Marty Walsh explains what this year's picture means to our city.
A lot of good energy out here today, you know, particularly from the survivors and all the folks that, you know, suffered some losses last year. You know, it's about showing how strong Boston is really, and this picture is going to show you just how strong we are as a city.
Thousands of people, including bombing survivors and first responders, lined the Boston Marathon finish line Saturday morning for the historic cover shoot.
The magazine just hit the stands, and here is a picture of the Boston Strong photo. So Dan, I know you spoke to some Suffolk students who were down there at the finish line for the photo shoot. What do they have to say?
Yeah, they were really excited to just be there. Obviously, unless you have a magnifying glass, you're not going to be able to find them in there, but just to be part of the community was great.
So moving on, rub against me and I will expose you. This is the slogan of the MBTA ad warning women against sexual harassment on the T. The MBTA is hoping to stop gropers from attacking and wants to increase awareness of the crime. There are 3 different posters that are displayed around the T encouraging sexual assault victims to report any incidents and even to take pictures of their assailant. The most common reports are among female riders who complain about being groped, rubbed, or grabbed. The MBTA is one step closer to bringing real-time arrival data to the Green Line. The T began searching for a contractor to install the system this week. Once installed, riders will be able to track when the next Green Line train will arrive at their station. A similar system is already in place for the red, blue, and orange line trains. Officials hope to have the system online on the Green Line by the end of the year. The MBTA is uncovering history during its reconstruction of the Government Center station. The T tweeted these photos showing the demolition progress. Already knocked down walls, lighting fixtures, and the ceiling. Workers also found an old mosaic during the demolition. They say it will be preserved. Government Center closed last month for 2 years to undergo a multi-million-dollar renovation.
Thanks to a new initiative by City Hall, Bostonians can now connect to free Wi-Fi in more places around the city. Mayor Marty Walsh flipped the switch on the new service this week. This map shows more than 170 new hotspot locations, which include the Boston Common, Hyde Park, and South Boston. Over the next 2 years, Mayor Walsh hopes to double that number of hotspots by putting 20 more neighborhoods online. The connectivity was made possible through grants and the city's internet network.
Now to a story you saw first on Suffolk U News. Modern Pastry in Boston's North End is getting ready to open its new expanded location. An official grand opening for this shop is set for this weekend. Construction crews have been working since the new year to get the shop ready. The new location is directly next door to Modern's current shop, but will be more than 3 times larger. Modern pastry owner Giovanni Piccarello thinks the new shop will keep his business on top.
We decided to buy this place and we want the best pastry shop. We have a good reputation and business and pastry, cakes, cookies. I think I'm the best.
Giovanni says customers should expect more offerings at the new location, including pizza and sandwiches. Giovanni is so funny. I wonder what the guys over at Mike's would have to say about that.
If they're anything as pumped about their pastries as he is, they're going to have some competition ahead of them. Although the year of anniversary of last year's bombings is now behind us, the memories are not.
And over the past year, Bostonians have shown just how resilient they can be. As our marathon coverage continues, we take a look at 2 new exhibits that uniquely capture the source of much of the strength that has made Boston strong.
This is the moment I knew. His future had no boundaries.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org.
So I've come up with a family emergency plan.
Great. What is it?
It's difficult to talk about, so I'm not telling you.
How will we know what to do?
You won't.
I'm so glad I won't have to remember anything.
And me too. Thanks for this, sweetie.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
A year ago this week, our newscast, of course, began with exclusive coverage of our work from the Boston Marathon.
We brought you powerful sounds of the 2 explosions and an image of the second blast that was eventually seen around the world.
1 year later, now, we have stories of memorials and healing, including the story of one Boston man who relied on his talent for photography to display how some people choose to express themselves in ink.
Suffolk News reporter Carla Rojo tells us how this small project turned into one big exhibition.
Salem photographer Christopher Paget was one of the many people getting tattoos to support their city, and it only took this one tattoo to start the exhibition at the Boston Center for Adult Education called Blood for Boston. Paget just wanted to get people's stories and the reason behind their tattoos.
And I got so much more. I got nurses and cops and people that were running and just the stories and how they all intertwine was just amazing.
And out of the bunch, he met 6 volunteer nurses that were at the finish line helping victims during the attack.
We just felt that it was an experience that we knew was never going to leave us, and so we wanted to somehow remember it.
When meeting the different survivors, it really impacted Paget and the heroes he believes Boston has.
In a position where their life is on the line, and rather than trying to preserve their own life, they go further into the dangerous situation.
For many first responders, the pain of getting a tattoo doesn't compare to the experience they lived at the marathon.
The pain of, an hour and a half getting a tattoo is nothing compared to, say some of the mental feelings that, we've had towards the marathon.
Being a photography teacher at the BCAE, the center wanted to support his talent and this great cause.
We're all about community, which fits right into our mission. And this is an extension of ourselves to the city of Boston.
Even a year after the marathon, all the people still have one thing in common. They are all Boston strong. Carla Rojo, Suffolk U News.
In addition to the display, Paget is selling books called Blood for Boston with all different photographs of people and their tattoos.
Some of the proceeds from that book will go to the Spalding Rehabilitation Center. The exhibition is up through the end of April. Well, we've seen it happen before, but it's also now expanding into the Suffolk University campus, memorizing the marathon.
So our Suffolk News reporter, Katie Shambo, joins us live here in the studio. Katie, what's going on?
Yeah, a lot of Suffolk students were affected by the marathon last year, so they've worked hard over the last year to raise money for the One Fund. The Suffolk University campus is a hub for healing, reflection, and donation for the 1-year anniversary of the Boston Marathon bombings. In the spirit of donation, Suffolk's Gymnasium was host to a blood drive in honor of last year's victims. Students, faculty, and Boston residents hit the hardwood to donate blood to the Red Cross. Suffolk's Community Engagement Center sponsored the event. This was the 4th blood drive at Suffolk since the fall, but for some students, the first time they had motivation to give the gift of life.
I did once in high school, but it was for extra credit. So this year it is something different. I think we've all been inspired by the whole Boston Strong idea. So I think that's why a lot of the people are here today.
After getting their blood drawn, many students added messages and artwork to a blood drive quilt. That quilt will be displayed at Fenway Park with others made at blood drives across the country. Also on our campus, several student organizations came together to host a Boston-themed buffet lunch and fundraiser. A portion of the proceeds from the $10 luncheon will be donated to the One Fund. Boston-themed cell phone cases, $1 Suffolk Cares bracelets, and a donation jar raked in $262 alone. Suffolk University Program Council's president-elect explains why this fundraiser was important to Suffolk.
I mean, I think a lot of students were affected by the marathon. I think it was a traumatic thing, and to remember the anniversary and pay tribute to what happened is good. And I think a lot of people want to contribute, whether it just be a donation and bringing people together and remembering what Boston Strong really means to Suffolk and the community.
The luncheon was hosted by Sodexo Food Services and will be donating portions to the One Fund. As some at Suffolk remember last year's marathon, others are looking forward to marathon this Monday. The athletic trainer at Suffolk, Jeff Stone, is honoring those who were injured in the bombing and those who passed by, volunteering to officiate the race. Stone says he and some of his trainer friends want to volunteer their time and their skills to send a very important message.
I thought about doing medical. I've officiated the last 10 years. I've got a buddy of mine who's actually flying in from Pittsburgh. He's the president of our National Athletic Training Group. He's going to be working medical this year, and I'm going to try to coordinate some things with him. But we want to keep the integrity, keep the spirit of the race to show it's stronger than two people.
Stone says his volunteer work at the finish line is the least he can do to give back to all the people who have inspired him in the past year since the bombings. In the dark days following last year's bombing, people from all over the world sent their well wishes to Boston. Those messages of hope are now on display in a special exhibit at the Boston Public Library. Organizers hope the exhibit will continue the healing. Suffolk U News reporter Dan Lampariello tells us more about this powerful display.
A race bib, a painting, a note. Unforgettable images and remembrances of the memorial left behind the days following the Boston Marathon bombings are now on display at the Boston Public Library.
As people walk through and they see the little individual notes that people wrote or the cards, or there's some even really artsy things where people put together collage type things. That's when you start seeing people tear up, and that's when I started tearing up.
The exhibit is called Dear Boston, Messages from the Marathon Memorial. As people walked through the exhibit, they reflected back on the innocent lives lost and hundreds who were injured last April.
It brings tears to your eyes, and it's something that should never have happened, but it did, and hopefully we can move forward and not forget what's happened here this day.
The effort to preserve the thousands of items was overwhelming, and a walk through the exhibit shows just how painful the bombings were.
It left me almost speechless. It's so much bigger and more emotional than anything you've seen on television. To see it in the flesh was very different.
Visitors to the exhibit were able to write messages to the people of Boston on cards like these. Those messages will be on display here at the exhibit up until it closes on May 12th. After that, everything will be sent over to the city archives. Dan Lampariello, Suffolk U News.
The exhibit is open to the public during regular library hours and is free of charge. So Dan, Jess and I were at that Suffolk luncheon. It was great to see how many Suffolk students came out to donate even just whatever they had.
What was the response like?
There was a lot of people there. It looked like a lot of fun to, enjoy the food and everything.
Yeah, I got a Boston Strong phone case.
Great. Well, thank you, Katie. Appreciate it.
That does it for this edition of Suffolk U News, the weekly news program brought to you by the Department of Communication and Journalism at Suffolk University. I'm Jessica Bard.
And I'm Dan McCarthy. Thank you for watching us here on your local cable company or on the internet.
Be sure to continue to watch for Suffolk U News, bringing you more from the school with the heart
in the heart of the city. Goodbye.